Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, shutting down rumors. Also, Alabama must face its mental health crisis. And we got to retire the show ponies.
This little thing is fantastic. I just don't understand it.
Don't try to. It's bigger than both of them.
Problem with show ponies is, I actually think they're all unicorns. Ha! All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter at APR. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hey, y'all.
You know, we've talked about this over the years, and it's not gotten any better. In Alabama, we have a mental health crisis. Nearly 1 in 4 Alabamians has serious mental health issues. Our prisons, our jails are full of people with mental health issues. It not only affects families, people, it affects the very state we live in. Our court system is riddled with mental health issues, with every court in the house, in the state having someone having to deal with these issues. And Susan, Speaker of the House, Nathaniel Ledbetter, said that he's going to address these. Mm-hmm. Let's hope he has a big plan.
Let's do it, because you forget also that you have police involved. When you get involved in a mental health situation that becomes dangerous, you have untrained, have police officers in there that are not trained in mental health,
right,
to try to go in and do interference in it. I know one of the things he's really, really focused on is veterans' mental health in this state. Alabama has the highest rate of suicide among veterans in the country. We have a friend that her husband has PTSD and almost committed suicide, and only then did they step in and try to give him help. That's ridiculous. We've got to be able to get involved in these mental health issues earlier in people's life, even maybe identify them in high school, and before it gets to a crisis situation. And I think he is very, very dedicated to getting this done. We haven't had anything done since the 1960s.
Yeah, Josh, you wrote about this and talked about this. In the 1960s, 70s, Alabama did have a good, had some good programs and facilities for mental health issues. Right now, Governor Ivey has instituted the crisis help centers. But once it gets to be a crisis, we're already in trouble.
Yeah, there's a stigma, obviously, still attached to mental health. And it kind of works from a couple of different angles. I think it's less of a stigma now of people admitting that they have a mental health issue and trying to seek some help. There's a lot more folks who are willing to do that now. But there's also still a stigma out there about treatment, and where it's hard to tell that somebody has a mental health illness. They're walking around fine. They seem fine. Everybody tries to put on a good face for everything. And so I think that hinders people a little bit in this mental health crisis that we have. But it's encouraging to hear, the Speaker of the House wanting to tackle this. I saw how he tackled gambling in the last session, and if he can bring that same sort of energy into this, I think maybe there's a little bit more willingness on both sides of the aisle for people to address this sort of thing. Because you're right, we used to have one of the premier mental health agencies in the state, right, and that has not been the case now for quite some time. Matter of fact, we do, by all studies, we do a pretty horrendous job of addressing mental health, and especially, this ought to ring in a lot of people's ears around here, veterans' mental health. We are pretty awful at it, actually. We have one of the highest rates of veteran suicides, one of the highest rates of opioid addiction, because they were just for years handing out pills to vets who were suffering from mental illness as well as physical illness. And it's now turned into an epidemic here, and we're not doing a very good job of helping those folks. And so, it's encouraging to hear that somebody is going to take a real strong look at this.
And I've talked to people within the court system who said that the elephant in every courtroom is a mental health issue, because these people are picked up by law enforcement. They have to go before judges, and judges have little recourse as to how to address that. Josh, I know you've talked about this a lot with judges.
Yeah, I have actually. I interviewed several judges a few years back about this issue, and they talked openly about how just how hard it is to put the system that they have in place and make it apply appropriately to folks who they know have a problem. And I'll say, Susan brought up earlier, you're having the police have to deal with these things. Well, that was part of the stupidly named defund the police movement. I mean, it was this was a dumb thing, and it was overly politicized from both sides. And people tried to attack it, but there were some good ideas kind of encapsulated in that particular movement. One of them being take a little bit of money away from police departments, and instead of using that money on police departments, use them for mental health experts that can go with police on these calls where there's a mental health issue taking place, and they can help the police deal with these things in a better way. But until we start trying some things outside of the box, outside of the norm, and just locking people up and throwing them away until we can so we can forget about them, it's not going to help.
No, it's not. I want to move on to this next topic, because this is a hot button issue, and that is Senator Katie Britt and Rick Scott have put forward legislation that would allow the nation to stay on permanent daylight savings time and not switch over to standard time. Susan, that is hugely controversial.
It is hugely controversial. We've even had a disagreement this morning in the studio about which one to go with. I personally like the daylight savings time because I like to be outside later in the evening, but some people don't like that. Now, that's what killed the bill last time, was they couldn't decide between which standard time or daylight savings time. So I think this is smart to stick with one and in this bill and then force the argument.
I know President-elect Trump has said that he wants to do away with daylight savings time, so I'm not sure how they handle this. But it's a controversy, Josh, that doesn't appear to want to go away.
No, listen, I'll say this. If we can get this passed, I might actually vote for Katie Britt or Rick Scott. Because, I mean, it is. I hate the changing. I hate the changing of the time, and personally, I think that anybody that wants to be on standard time or to change all the time, there's only two types of people: werewolves and communists. And so I think that this is what we need to do. And listen, I understand fully that we're not gaining more hours. It's just where you're putting the hours of sunlight in the day, okay, in your day. And to me, especially someone with a young child that has, after school activities and stuff like that, when we get into the wintertime and we're talking about sunsets at a little after 4, I mean, it's just it's a dreary sort of life you're leading at this point. And just push it back an hour, give everybody an extra hour of sunlight in the evenings to do whatever you want to do, and especially those with kids and things like that.
Yeah, and I don't personally like driving home, and I don't see very well at night. So, talking about driving home from a mani-pedi at 5 o'clock and I can't see. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That seems like a personal problem to me.
I just don't know why bad things happen to good people like that. Driving home from a mani-pedi.
It's simple. It's just simple.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Speed is one of the biggest factors in a fatal car crash. Your car stops, but your body does not stop at the same time. Your body keeps going. And that could be running into your seatbelt, that could be hitting the airbag, something has to stop it, and unfortunately it's something very hard.
There have been times that we've come upon accidents where if people weren't speeding, they'd probably still be alive today.
It's truly dangerous and it puts everybody at risk.
There's just no point to it.
This kind of stuff has got to stop.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. You know, Montgomery, Alabama, and politics in general, politicos, love to spread rumors. And they sit around, I liken it to Blazing Saddles. You know, the campfire scene in Blazing Saddles where they eat beans, drinking coffee, and passing around rumors. But there's been a rumor floating around here that says that Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter is taking a position in Washington, D.C. and leaving the speakership. Well, I spoke with the speaker and asked directly, was he leaving? And he said, no, he had the job that he wanted and that he was not planning on leaving Alabama to go to D.C. But Susan, the rumor has been persistent, and I think some people have nefariously used that because they want to destabilize his leadership.
Well, we're going into session. And, you know, there are factions within the Republican Party that like to get everything really confusing.
Yeah.
Or get now to distract the speaker, you know, where he's having to go out and defend himself that no, he doesn't have a job in D.C. No, he likes the job he has. So that distracts him from his focus going into session. And that's purely just malicious as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, Josh, he said that he had been elected by the District 24 people to serve them, and he had been unanimously elected by the House to serve as Speaker. And that was the job that he wanted, and he wasn't seeking any other job. I don't know how much more clear you could be.
Yeah, I'll say this: if the malicious attack on him is somebody saying, "Listen, I heard he's good enough; he's going to get a better job somewhere else." I think he's doing a pretty good job. Obviously.
Yeah.
No, listen. And I do. I like Nathaniel Ledbetter. I think he's done. I know me saying that probably hurts him.
Yeah, it doesn't help him out.
Sorry. But listen, we disagree on a lot of things politically, but I think he's done a pretty good job of wrangling, basically herding cats over there. And, I have a relationship with Anthony Daniels that, I know him and speak to him quite often. He's had the same sort of rumors talking about how he's going to be going to D.C. or he's going to be taking a spot in the Senate or, something along those lines. And both of those guys, I think, do a really good job. So I think they're somewhat comparable. And I think that they're level-headed people that are pro-business, but also pro-worker. And I like those kind of people. I think that I disagree a little bit with Nathaniel Ledbetter on how to get some things done. But I also think that we at the core kind of want to do what's best for the state.
Yeah, and I again, whether this is malicious or not, I think I know who started the rumor that it was malicious.
I figured that out.
I agree with Josh. It's just to confuse people and everything. But the speaker this week, he did release a opinion column that we ran, and he talked about his agenda. And he does say that mental health is at the top of his agenda, but there are quite a few other points that he made in here. Economic growth and things like that are top of mind. But Susan, this is the kind of agenda that we don't see anything here about the social issues that keep being brought up. But anyway, let's talk about what he's.
Well, he's talking about education, workforce development, mental health, as you mentioned. And this speaker is a workhorse, okay? He's not the flamboyant. He's not the, let's try to get in front of the camera or let's take all the credit kind of legislator. He's more, let's get to work and actually change things to help Alabama become a better state. And you can see it right here in this agenda for this coming session and what he believes in as let's get get down to the grindstone and go to work.
I mean, Josh,
Everybody knows the grindstone.
no, I find it hard for anyone to disagree with what the agenda is. The question is, what does it look like in reality, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. And the reason people like him is he's a serious legislator, serious lawmaker. You know, these are serious topics. These are not things for personal benefit or personal glory. And so, yeah, that's the reason why people, I think, respond well to Nathaniel Ledbetter, is because he's taken the job seriously. Right. And these are serious topics and serious issues. I'll say this: a lot of the things that they're talking about, that he's talking about doing in this, are going to be dependent upon the money. And I don't know where the money is going to come from. And when you're talking about economic development, there's a pretty big economic development bill that the House tried to pass last year, that the Senate whiffed on pretty bigly, and that was the gambling bill. When you're talking about adding somewhere between 12 and 15,000 jobs to the state and about $1 billion annually in tax revenue, and they're going to need that. Because they don't have it. They got some holes in both budgets, and they need to fill them fast. And there's no other place to go.
Well, all that ARPA money, all that relief money from the COVID pandemic is gone.
Yeah.
And they don't have any way to bring any more money in except raising taxes, which they're not going to do.
Right.
But Josh is right. They had an opportunity last year to pass a comprehensive gaming bill that Blackshear, what was Blackshear's name?
Yes, Chris Blackshear. Chris Blackshear.
And who else worked on it, Josh?
Andy Witt was on that.
Several others.
Sam Jones from down in Mobile was on the Democratic side leading the way there. And they did a fantastic job putting that bill together. It really worked well.
And the speaker was right behind it. It passed in 42 minutes, Susan. And it went to the Senate and died because a handful of these do-nothing senators killed it on behalf of Alpha and API.
And one of the ways they killed it was saying that the medical attention that was in there was an expansion of Medicaid.
Yeah.
What it actually was funding for veterans' mental health.
Yeah.
But that's one of the ways they killed it.
But it was dishonest the way they did it. Now, the speaker has been adamant that he will not bring back that bill in the House this year, that it has to come out of the Senate before it has a hope of passing. But if it comes out of the Senate and it's comprehensive like the one that the House sent, he says that they can get it passed. But Josh, it really looks like it's going to be up to incoming President Pro Tem Garland Gudger to move that ball down the field, right?
Yeah, it is. I think there's support there to pass a gambling bill. Now, it's I think where we get into the weeds a little bit is what kind of gambling bill they're going to pass. Right. And you can't, if you're looking for revenue out of this, if you're looking for things to pay to fill a hole in the budget, you're not going to be able to pass what they had last time. All right, stuff with historical horse racing. I wish I could explain to people how that affects every part of this, and it basically cuts the revenue that's going to come in down to about 25% of what you could have expected from that comprehensive House bill, because it's not the same thing. It also affects the compact that you were going to try to enter into with the Porch Creeks and how much money that they were then going to be able to pony up. It doesn't work the same way, and it's really ignorant because you end up with the same number of casinos. They're just dumb casinos, and I hope that they take a good hard look at this. They have an opportunity to do it, and they have an opportunity to do something that would better the state.
Well, we'll see if the Senate has the will and the courage to do it. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. There are two types of politicians in the House and Senate in Alabama. There are the workhorses that get things done. They concentrate on the issues that affect people's lives mostly. And then there are what we call the show ponies, and they're the ones that want to get attention. They concentrate on bathroom bills and banning books and calling out transgender youth. And they don't listen to anyone. They're the stars of their own show. But, we got to get rid of those people. You know what, Susan, we got to get rid of the people because they don't know how to govern. One of the reasons that they're show ponies is because they don't know anything but these hot button issues. They're just ignorant of how government works.
No, you're exactly right. That's the problem. They don't know how it works. They don't understand it. But this is a way that they go, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
Without having to do any actual work, without having to go in and do research and study an issue and come up with a collaborative way with other members to do something about it. They just want to go out there and just do the hot button issues because it gets them headlines.
Yeah. And we hear from lawmakers all the time who say, I don't want to do that. I want to get things accomplished for the state. Because, Josh, you well know that outrage doesn't pave a single road. It doesn't, these performative, bills and legislation doesn't help a single child or family. They just help that person look good to the base, right?
Yeah, that's it. And, I would say there's a real argument, I think, to be made that sort of attitude doesn't get you anywhere in this state. And you look at some of the more performative type people and look at how they do when they try to run for a higher office.
Yeah.
They almost always fail. I mean, look at this. Look who's on the ballot. Look who's leading the state, and look who are still stuck in these performative roles at the bottom.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, they tend to stay there. They don't move up to governor. They don't move up to the positions that where we need somebody. I mean, the only one that I can think of is Tommy Tuberville, and he fell into it backwards.
Yeah, he did.
And so. But outside of that, you look at what happened. I think we talked about this when Katie Britt was running for Senate. There were a lot of those performative people that were out there that were trying to get that job. We rejected all of them.
Yeah.
Same for governor. And it's because at the end of the day, I think people want someone who's going to come in and actually take the job seriously.
Yeah.
All right. We may disagree on what serious is, but as I just praised Nathaniel Ledbetter in the last segment, I don't agree with his politics most of the time. But man, I appreciate that he comes in and he takes the job seriously and he wants to do good things. And he's not out there talking about labeling bathrooms and, checking kids' private parts before they go play soccer. That's the sort of thing that you want out of a lawmaker and somebody down in Montgomery. Go down, do the job, address the issues that keep us up at night, and get the hell back out home.
Yeah. And
do it.
Tommy Tuberville is the exception from Alabama. And if he hadn't have been a famous Auburn coach during the pandemic, he would have never made it. Now he still says, I'll never say never on running for governor. But the one thing that Senator Tuberville has not evaluated is how much negative baggage he has that's never been released to the public. Mm-hmm. But right now he's riding high. He wants to punish everybody. Mm-hmm. He wants to change the world through ridiculous notions.
Another show pony.
He's a show pony.
So he doesn't understand it. You remember his 3 branches of government?
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. He doesn't.
He didn't even know what they are.
It's why somebody who's been there about 20 minutes in the same Senate is bringing more money home by a rate of about 10 to 1 than he is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is absolutely. Well, I want to switch on to this one. This is an absolute scandal brewing. This goes back to the it goes back to the what's the
Amos Trust.
And Amos Trust that was set up. They found oil on the land. They came into a lot of money. Tom Albritton, who's the head of the Alabama Ethics Commission, sits on the board of that trust, as do some other folks. And what has happened, and Josh, you've written about this, is the trust had bylaws which the trustees were to follow in granting scholarship money to children. That's the purpose of the trust. Well, they did that and gave like $150,000 to Tom Albritton's children. They also gave money to other board members' children, I think. They gave it to a judge, I hear. They gave it to other law
There were attorneys involved.
And stuff. And Josh,
don't forget Regions Bank, who also upped their fees when they found that oil, even though they didn't provide any additional services.
Right. But Josh, the thing is right here is that if everything that the court has ruled is actually true or found is actually true, I would think somebody would go to jail after this.
Yeah. Listen, it's a mess. And honestly, so Mabel Amos was a former Secretary of State in Alabama, and she set up this trust, and it was a modest trust when she set this thing up because she didn't have a whole lot of money. But then somewhere after her death, they found oil on the piece of property that was part of the trust, and then boom, all of a sudden we got a lot of cash. The allegations in this lawsuit is that Regions Bank had upped its fees. Obviously these are all allegations.
Yes,
they still haven't been proven. Although the court in an order did make it pretty clear that the judge over this case, Greg Griffin in Montgomery, really believes from the tax documents that these things happen.
Yeah.
Okay, he makes that really, really clear in there that he believes these things happen. Another one was some of the board members were quote unquote self-dealing. One of those being Tom Albritton is accused of taking $135,000, being granted it by the board. I've talked to Albritton, and he doesn't want to comment on it, but from what I understand, his position on this is that, hey, we applied for the scholarship fair and square. They granted it. I was recused, and I don't think that's, y'all can make your own judgment. I'm just telling you what the other side of this is. But then in addition to that, according to the order from Greg Griffin, now this is all from him, there were also some of the other folks on the board, their law partners' kids got scholarships. A judge's kid got a scholarship. Some of the staff at their law firms got scholarships. It's the definition, according to Greg Griffin, of self-dealing, out of this thing. And so, man, if this goes back to the circuit court in Montgomery, and Greg Griffin has to decide this, given what he's already written, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what the outcome is because I don't know what they can actually do to these board members. I don't think they can make the kids repay the scholarships, but somebody's probably going to have to repay some stuff.
And so we don't have much time. I don't know that somebody's going to go to jail on this, but if you've got an ethics, the head of the ethics commission involved in self-dealing, if that's proven true, then I don't think you can keep that job any longer. So. But anyway, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.